Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody. It's February 7th. I'm Ryan Miller, and he bites. It's Matt Amberg. No, I meant like sucks.
Oh, bark, bark, bark.
No, I didn't.
Ha ha! Ruff, ruff, ruff.
You two actually bite people. Yeah. Because this week on Book Club for Movies, where we talk about one movie a week and the comments therein, if you've got any, send them our way. In fact, we've had a couple Twitters about our movie from last week, Hannah.
Oh.
If you haven't listened to the show, go check it out. And I did not do this on purpose, I promise. I randomly ran across Hannah, and I've always loved it, and turns out still love it. Mm-hmm. But I had no idea that Amazon, I don't know if it was even announced yet or if there were rumblings of it, but Amazon is apparently producing a 6-part miniseries based on the idea. It doesn't star any of the same people, but it appears to be doing that thing, you know, like it's the next Cobra Kai or Impulse, the thing I'm going to watch that's actually a continuation of Jumper for some reason. They're doing a Hannah one of those things. So I guess there's been some rumblings about it. There were some tweets about it. Good old Jonathan Blade. And I guess there's not a ton to these tweets. There's not additional commentary on the movie. Just Jonathan Blade says, I didn't know that this was a loved modern classic, but the ad for the TV version seems to have folks happily reminiscing. If only a film podcast had only last week had a discussion about this movie. If only. It was us. That was us.
We did it.
We did it. We're fortune tellers in a sense, if you think about it.
We're like the Hannah Montana of...
We are.
Of knowledge.
That comparison is just going to come back and back and back, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Book Club for Movies, where we're Hannah Montana.
Happily reminiscing is the best thing I can say about that trailer, though, I'll say. I don't know if you watched it.
No, I did not.
Ugh. If you were lukewarm on the movie itself, like that trailer appears to understand nothing about the movie. So.
Perfect.
Tentative never watch on that one.
I'm definitely going to love that show better than the movie then.
But this week, we're taking a left turn, possibly.
At Albuquerque.
With Isle of Dogs, we're going to do a Wes Anderson film, which is probably a good or a bad idea. We'll find out. Matt, give us the synopsis first before we get into that.
Isle of Dogs. I just want to point out, Isle of Dogs, say it real fast.
Isle of Dogs.
I love dogs.
Oh. See? You know, I accidentally misspelled it Isle Faux Dogs at one point, and I thought that still worked.
I loaf dogs. I loaf dogs. I don't know how that works out.
Dog loaf. Yeah, check it out. Look it up.
In any case, dog loaf. Right, correct. Isle of Dogs is going to come in at an hour and 41 minutes. Written and directed by Wes Anderson, starring Bryan Cranston, Roy Rankin, Kunichi Nomura, Ed Norton Jr., Bill Murray, Scarlett Johansson, Greta Gerwig, and F. Murray Abe Raham. Here's your Book Club for Movies.
Here it is.
Isle of Dogs synopsis.
Right here.
As a dog flu begins ravaging the canine population in Megasaki, Mayor Kobayashi decrees all dogs be banished to an island of trash. As scientists work to discover the cure, Kobayashi's nephew steals a plane and heads to the Isle of Dogs in search of his lost friend.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that kind of encapsulates, synopsizes.
Is very good.
As a twir.
So I have one question with this, and I've noticed recently I'm liking to start these shows with a question.
I'm a huge fan.
I think here it's necessary because we are just a couple of Wes Anderson fanboys.
True.
We have not been shy about that.
No. I have said this before, and I will say it again. He is my favorite working director currently right now, and has been for the past decade plus.
And because I'm me, I would have to think about that for like 5 to 10 minutes, and it would be hard and hurt.
Yeah, so, and then it would change like in 20 minutes. So
yeah, possibly also. Yeah, we would do another show about the Coen brothers or something. So let's just agree.
Okay.
Agree to agree.
Done.
What does anybody else have to gain from this show? What does anybody have to gain by listening to a couple Wes Anderson fanboys prattle on about his latest thing?
Nothing.
You don't necessarily need to... Okay.
Oh.
I was going to say you don't necessarily need to answer that right now. That's kind of the question we'll get at over the course of the show.
Okay.
But if you're too long didn't read, there you go. Cheat sheet. This movie has more in common with the Fantastic Mr. Fox than most others. I think we can start out with.
Yeah, sure.
It's another animated version of his, which I think we begin this by talking about Wes Anderson, period. And we found... or we build a foundation, at least for some of our fanboyism, let's say. And we're not the only ones. Like, if Wes Anderson is one of those filmmakers where you love him, I could see are maybe turned off by him straight up because of his stuff.
I do know people that absolutely can't stand anything he's done. They hate it.
Or, and this might fit into that category, you might just be the people that it is actively, I could see, much like last week's movie, I guess, because it is so style heavy, or he is so style heavy and has so much his own style. Idiosyncratic is the word I'm looking for.
Very.
You could just straight up be off and be like, nope. Like, I get it. Ooh, like, he's artsy too, right? So there's a whole nother group of people that are just like, ugh.
One of the bigger complaints I hear about his movies, people really seem to dislike the way he does dialogue because it's very stilted. It's dry. His dialogue,
completely dry.
Yeah, his dialogue is totally dry. It's very, very stilted, and it's very much that, he does a lot of single shot where it's, person and then back to the other person and then back to this person while they have stilted dialogue. There's no like crossover, they don't talk over each other. They don't talk to each other. His movies have people really talking at each other.
Yeah. And as a stylist, he refines more than he evolves, I would say. Like, you can watch Rushmore and see it coming and still enjoy in fact, I had Bottle Rocket, just my thumb was on it this week.
So good.
And I knew I was going to go down a rabbit hole. We recorded late on Hannah last week, so I knew I only had several days to watch 20 Wes Anderson films. So with my thumb on Bottle Rocket, I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to start this. And I watched Once Upon a Deadpool. So we'll get to that. But I think Wes Anderson knows what his style is, doesn't care if you like it, and is very much interested in telling new stories, weaving new tales within that style. Sure. Like, he's nothing you see in Isle of Dogs, you're going to be like, whoa, left field for Anderson. Like, he's trying something new here. He's not. He's refining what he's done in the past. And again, he's done less of this animation stuff. So I think, and maybe we're just getting into the movie here, dude is a designer through and through. Like, that's the word I would use to describe this filmmaker, which isn't something I always use for filmmakers. Auteur may be the closest thing that gets thrown around, right? But he's a designer. And I like it when he does animated features because I feel like he lets that flag fly more even.
Sure.
He's got more complete creative control over just everything and how it's constructed and what it looks like.
Right. Well, he's not bogged down by the fact that reality gets in the way of vision.
Yeah, reality gets in the way. That's a pretty good Wes Anderson tagline right there, or ethos maybe. So yeah, and Isle of Dogs is far and above even just surpasses Fantastic Mr. Fox, any of his movies. That thing is designed. It looks freaking gorgeous. I have a graphic designing background, and I do a lot of that in my own video making. I'm not going to call it movie making, but like heads over heels, man. Like, that stuff is gorgeous in every eye. Like, no complaints. Perfect. It's perfect. I will say a thing is perfect.
I love the animated films that he does as well, because they maintain his style while also giving him a little more playroom, like we talked about.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And yeah, he is a total designer. Like, everything he does, there is a very specific look. And he is interesting too, because he is one of those directors that not only does he put weird things in the background that help inform characters and like really flesh stuff out if you're looking for it, but he is so deliberate in every movement of the camera, in
completely crafted,
every angle, in every little thing. And one of the things in Isle of Dogs that comes out so not only impressively, but you just know he was there saying this is what this has to look like, was the amount of effort and work that went into giving the dogs hair that flows in the constant wind, always moving, and it looks fantastic.
The animation is great. Yeah, no, it's yeah.
And I mean, I guess let me say this too. If because I'm gonna say it,
okay.
You can edit it out. Then you could be like, yeah, I didn't let you say it. How's that, dummy?
What if I edit that out and you just say it?
Yeah. Well, ultimately, you have dominion over what I say in my voice.
Well, now it's all staying in.
I think this is a movie where if you like Wes Anderson, you're going to like the movie.
Oh, yeah. No.
It does a great job, just like Mr. Fox did, of tightroping between a kid's comedy and an adult dramedy. And he does this just like Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox, when you watch that movie with an adult eye, it's very disgusting. And I'm glad why are they not wearing pants? Put the pants on. No, when you watch the movie with with an adult eye, though, you catch the deeper themes. And
adult.
I will say, ultimately, I think that this is the most commercial and straightforward movie Wes Anderson has made.
Really?
Yeah, by far.
There are some very inaccessible parts of it, though, I would say. And since we're going there, the dialogue is subtitled very particularly.
Mm-hmm. And sporadically, I wouldn't say sporadically, but in...
Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying it's not all subtitled. Yeah, which is what I mean by particular. Like, they've chosen what to subtitle. Like, most of the spoken Japanese from humans in this, which I guess none of the dogs speak Japanese, so whatever, is not subtitled. You understand what's happening because it's contextualized, which is another strength of Anderson's, in a way that you can't not know. But it's a particular statement. Like, in fact they make a particular statement at the very beginning about what is subtitled and what isn't, because they say that the dog's speech has been translated as well. It's not defined any more than that. Like, the humans and the dogs talk to each other, but they don't necessarily have conversations, I guess.
Right. There's an understanding between them. Like, there's like this, it's that weird link. And as you're watching, you totally get the feeling that Atari, who is the little boy who crashes his plane on the
pilot.
The little pilot, yes, I should say.
Who is a little boy, yes, that's true.
Atari seems to be able to understand exactly what they want while they're talking to him, but he doesn't, like, he treats them still when he talks back to them as dogs. Like, there's like there's a weird connection there, a weird way for them to communicate that isn't fully explained, but I also don't think it ever needs an explanation. I mean, I guess he does with his one dog. He has a communicator thing that he can talk to the dog, like it's an earpiece, but that was only one dog.
In fact, that's what I was going to mention. I'm sure there is an explanation, like the fact that the boy has the headset that is connected to his dog's spots, which we'll get to the story now, I think is pertinent.
Okay. Here's where this goes, and we might bounce around a little bit, but
let's start the begin. But in fact, it stopped me when I get to wherever you're going to be. The dogs have been, like you said in your synopsis, have been banished to this trash island that takes place. Like, that's a primer for the story. That's a prologue. The real story here is how the son of the mayor.
He's the nephew.
Sorry,
he's an adopted nephew at that.
Yes. Which
they make a point of kind of pulling out.
They do, yeah. Goes to the Isle of Dogs to find his dog that was banished there, Dog Zero, in fact. They come to later name him. He knows him as Spots, and they have the headset that connects each other. To find his dog, the mayor was the first one he sent there to Trash Island. So he arrives. He finds what he thinks are the bones of his dead dog. Turn out not to be. So he is befriended by this pack of dogs. There's 5 dogs, I believe.
Well, there's 4 that actually like the kid and 1 that doesn't.
Right. Yes.
Chief is not a fan.
Yes, Chief is not a fan, Bryan Cranston. And that's the main thrust of the movie is relocating Spots, while the politician by the mayor is enacting a final solution or preparing to.
Yeah, he wants to completely destroy the entirety of that island with a whole bunch of poison.
And before we get to the politics, which I think is going to be a weirder discussion, does that get us close to where you were going, or prepare us for something? What you were going to say?
Yeah, that's fine.
Did I steamroll over it? In fact,
no, we'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. It's fine.
Okay, so still chronologically then.
Yeah, we're good.
Well, fine. I'm just going to politics then, because it does start with that. Wes Anderson films have not been political to me in the past.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, fix me then. Like, I am missing a few here.
No. It's not a fixed thing. It's just it's a viewpoint thing. But have you seen Grand Budapest Hotel?
I have not. That's one of the ones I'm missing.
So I think that film, they use wartime as a piece of it, but I think a lot of his films actually touch on politics, but not in the overt and in your face way. And it's never, I shouldn't say never, because I think Isle of Dogs does do this, but it's
very overt in Isle of Dogs. Maybe that's what's throwing me off here.
And in the other films, they're also not, like, in general, they're not huge swaths of a political thing. It's more like a distillation of something that kind of leads to it, or is like a germ of something.
Yeah, or more allegorical, maybe.
Yeah, it's something that definitely you go, okay, I kind of see what you're saying here, and it expands your own conversation, right. I guess.
But here you have a politician and two disparate races, cats and dogs.
Yep. One
of them being banished. There are internment camps even at some point. Well, actually, they've been, first of all, given an engineered, it turns out, flu, and then banished because of that. Like they got the politicians out there after having engineered the flu, saying that they are a danger to us because of this flu. We need to get rid of them, like type thing, and they are, banished. So it's very overt, and to me, it breaks down still eventually in a way that I haven't completely solved. Because it's something in xenophobic stuff like that, obviously, there's no halfway point. Like that person is a piece of trash. Like Hitler's a piece of trash. I'm going to say it. I'm just going to come right out and say it.
Well, bold.
But here we're talking, like, as the movie goes on, the son is portrayed as kind of a budding dictator of sorts. And this is early on in his relationship with the dog. The five dogs we talked about, Bryan Cranston's character is masterless. He is a proponent of this democracy between dogs. It seems like there's a funny line several times throughout where they're like, let's take a vote on it.
Let's take a vote on it.
or you keep acting like the leader and you're not the leader, we all are, type thing. So
he's a socialist.
It's very expressly called out, but still the solution is still that they come together and that dogs are subservient, I guess, is where it all breaks down for me.
See, that's interesting, because I don't think it's that dogs are subservient. I think the point, from what I get out of it, is that they're friends. Like it's not about.
Okay, well, you're getting at the one solution I might have. So that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, it's not the subservient nature. To a point, I guess, Anderson does pull out the fact that dogs are always pets, and they even say it. Like Ed Norton Jr. mentions it more than once. He's like, "You are a pet. You're a dog. Be a dog. Be a pet."
Well, and Bryan Cranston rails on the other for that. He says, you're right. Acting like a pet.
Right.
Like you're acting like you want a master, and he's very much against masters, like. And
I think that is kind of part of that distillation where Chief was a stray dog. He had no one, like and we find out at one point he did have a family, and then he didn't know why, but he bit the son, and he didn't know why, and then he was locked up, and then he got away, and that's a whole nother theme that they deal with. We
will come back to his character, yes, absolutely.
Right, because it's a big part of that.
Yeah.
But I think that when the dogs say master, it almost feels like it's not master in the sense that like you're a pet, that you are my thing. It's like they say it with there's a
okay, I think we're getting there. I think we need the rest of this show to finish it.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Because he goes to the Isle of Dogs, he befriends and begins this journey, and during the journey becomes separated from the four other dogs. So it's just Atari and Chief.
Yeah.
And that's when we get a little bit more about Chief. We get a little bit less about Atari. He's kind of just, okay, you know what? This is working itself out. Atari's development as a character is much more strictly along the lines of obedience, which is a word that comes up in the movie several times, because there's that one moment between him and Chief where they get to this defunct amusement park, and he's not tall enough to ride the ride, and Chief tells him no, and he goes anyways. And he does that enough times so Chief leaves him. But then Chief has to make the decision. He's like, okay, I can't just leave him. So the kid hurts himself, but then he's lost without his dog. So Chief comes back, and then that's when they have the actual moment where Chief kind of shares his story. And they do come together in that moment, I guess maybe meeting halfway, because they both soften. Like, we did get that scene early on with Atari, right? In fact, I want to say it's as they're beginning the expedition, where he's a straight up dictator. Like, he's a little budding fascist, like he sits them all down, and there's some fascist music march, playing in the background.
Sure.
And then they slowly work to this point where they do soften both of them, Chief, as far as it goes with his master. So, okay, maybe we're coming halfway to something also. I like it.
We'll get there.
And it's probably going to make more sense if we do get into the characters. Those are kind of the paintbrushes that Anderson uses to craft his stories. And Chief is certainly the strongest character of the movie, in that he's probably the closest thing we have to a protagonist. Actually, he's probably the way we enter the movie through, which is the definition of a protagonist that I heard and can't get rid of. Because Chief does begin as that dog you mentioned that says, I bite. I don't know why. I'm a stray. That's just who I am. I bite. And there's always been a resignation to Anderson's films, to his writings, to his portrayal. I think this is where the dryness probably also has an effect, because it has a way of communicating truth that you don't see in films, or that other films can't do, or that no other film can do without this type of environment or craft to it. So yeah, you get that statement. It's like, what it is? It's the line from Fantastic Mr. Fox where Angelica Houston's character, I can't remember the names at this point, it's been a while, and again, I've seen it like a zillion times because of my kids, so no excuse. But she looks at George Clooney's character, whose name is the Fantastic Mr. Fox, and her name is probably just Mrs. Fox, isn't it? No, she's got to have a first name. And says, I love you, but we shouldn't have gotten married, basically. Something along those lines.
Sure.
Remember that line?
Yeah.
There's a type of resignation to what Wes Anderson does that isn't fatalistic. It's just, and again, maybe it's the dryness of it all. It's just how it is. It's not bad. It's not good. It's how it is. And if we had realized this, who knows how long ago, we maybe wouldn't have had this entire problem the whole time,
Right.
And she's not saying, I want a divorce,
Yeah. And I think it was Meryl Streep, by the way, not Angelica Houston.
Was it? Oh, shoot. Sorry.
And her name is Mrs. Fox. Yeah, but he does that in other movies as well. He definitely has those moments of truth. Like the Royal Tenenbaums is... maybe the one. Yeah. Love that movie, but that whole movie is just an entire family beating each other up with truth. And that's it can be hard, it can be, to a point, it can be kind of hard to watch, especially if you can identify with some of it, where you're, he does such a good job of taking his style and taking the substance he wants and turning it into that style. Like, he covers all of those truths up with fantastical things around them without the fantastical things being so left field, so
right.
Impossible.
Fantastic without being fantastic.
Right, exactly. They're fantastic without being impossible, and they're fantastic without being. But he totally does that, and I think this movie, I think Isle of Dogs does that as well.
That's Chief, right? That's what I'm getting at. Like that's him here.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. He's that character, and
it pays off so well. I think that is the payoff of the film, actually, towards the end. It's one of the last lines, but. Chronologically, they do eventually get to their destination, which is a dog named Jupiter and the Oracle.
The Oracle,
pug, right?
A little pug named Oracle.
Pug. Yeah, she's an oracle because she understands how to watch TV, essentially.
Which is the funniest thing, though. I love it.
It's great. Especially for a dog, right?
No, and it's the weirdest thing. Like, I have two of my dogs will sit down and just stare at the TV, and it just freaks me out. Like, why you're watching this? And it's freaking me out.
And they give them a little bit more backstory. And to me, it adds, the thing I want to mention here about it too, it adds to this culture they've created, which I think is important for this story that they're telling. this kind of xenophobic, like wide-ranging, hints of the Holocaust type stuff.
Right.
Like to create a culture, and not just because they exposit it everywhere and every time, but to have it at these different moments and to have it with these different, like they feel like they're always pointing to, or the film is displaying these, they're not murals. What's the right type of word for it? Like they're frescoes, like you get it what I mean when I say that. They're these,
I think fresco is actually the right word.
Okay, they're like cave paintings of this history. I'm sure there's actually probably an actual Japanese term for it, because they are referencing a hieroglyphics, Japanese hieroglyphics. That's what it is.
All right.
But it's so rich here. It's done so well, and it's created so beautifully that it completes that picture in again the perfect way.
Sure. I can agree with that.
So they get that background, they get more of that story, and it turns out that Spots probably exists somewhere on this far end where cannibal dogs are, this fabled land, the tip of the island somewhere. And eventually they get there, and there's a battle that ensues because meanwhile, back on the mainland, the scientist, again, this is real pointed, there's a scientific party that's rejected in favor of the fascist party. And eventually that scientist himself, the leader of that party, is poisoned. There's a group of freedom fighters. That's where Greta Gerwig's character comes in. Whitney? It's a W word. She's like this red-haired Afro white girl with freckles.
Tracy,
yes. Walker. Tracy Walker. That's it. Yes, thank you. They finally converge on the island as well because they've been hunting for Atari this whole time. And so it jumps off because Spots comes running out from his place of cover, and he's got his military issue canine teeth that he can spit at those robot dogs too that are in pursuit, and they explode.
I loved it because that was totally one of those moments where I was like, I think somebody watched Dune one too many times.
It's a great moment. It's that moment in Wes Anderson films where the action that doesn't belong happens, and it still happens in his own way. Right. I think so. Yeah. And all the fights are always represented by just a big cloud of smoke and like body parts like sticking out of it intermittently, like one of those things.
I love it. It's so funny. It's very cartoony.
Tasmanian Devil. Yeah, it's really good. But they find Spots. They're reunited, and that's basically where the third act takes off from, wherein they have to solve what's happening back home. They have to avoid this final solution they're trying to put into effect that kills all the dogs on all of the Isle of Dogs. And it needs to be done in a way that allows Spots to stay with his new found family. He has a wife that's about to have some kids, and passes the torch to Chief, who then becomes Atari's body dog. Yeah, I guess it would be a body dog. Bodyguard. Yeah. And but I should have done that in Barks. Would have been the way. So before we get to the ending, maybe did you want to chime in on all of that?
Yeah, I think in that particular moment where Atari and Chief and Spots are all together, it's not just a great building moment, a building block for the movie, and it's helping complete the house, as it were, or whatever you want to call it, or the island. I don't know. It's just a really smart and well done character building thing for Chief. And you can see it coming, like throughout the movie. It's really slow for him, but you do see him slowly become a different dog, like a more accepting dog. And I think it's done really well.
It is, yeah.
And it leads to a great, like when we get to the finale here. I think those moments really did a great job of building on themselves to stick a landing, as it were. Yeah, and I'm probably honestly too held up in the politics. I think it's the politics can only get you so far. I think, especially in a Wes Anderson film where human connection is at its core, and that's probably what we're doing here more than anything, Yeah, we're having a human connection. You mean
we are? That's okay. Thank you.
We're like a Wes Anderson movie.
But the ending is also good. I don't want to say problematic, but it ends in the way a Wes Anderson film ends, in that what is an ending to this thing? Like, that's not where these movies are at.
Yeah.
But the freedom fighters are staging a protest against is it the day of the election, I believe?
Yes.
Yes, that's when this was all going to go down. And he wins, of course, because it's a sham and he's a dictator. And she walks in and spills some of the guts on some of that because she has, over the course of the movie, got a lot of evidence and portrayed it and has some recordings and stuff like that. And also at that same moment, Atari and the dogs reach the mainland, interrupt the proceedings, and also give testimony that in the process turns the mayor. And he says, okay, yeah, I've been wrong. He turns on a dime. It's not
right.
He's also not the most developed character in the show, but the good guys are winning, whatever. And the aide goes rogue and hits the button himself, but the whole process has been hacked. So the dogs are saved. The Atari is actually made mayor is what it ends up being. And I guess the thing that does tie it up, which we're talking about characters here, so it's no wonder this is why the line that gets me, is when Chief, now employed in Spot's place, and it shows that he has, his military grade teeth are in place. He reunites with Scarlett Johansson's character, who's in there for like a second. Like, she isn't given much to do. Like, that's kind of a Chief's love interest, but honestly, there's 2 scenes with her in it.
There wasn't a ton of interest, it seemed like.
Yeah, I guess. But she's there with him, and he says to her, "I'm not a violent dog. I don't know why I bite."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a perfect line. It's another perfect line. It's a standout, and it does tie stuff up. Like, he didn't bite. Like, his whole thing about that's just who I am. I bite. That's me. It had nothing to do with who he was.
Right.
And I guess that's maybe another answer as to why they could still be dogs in their place and humans in their place and master and the only other answer I had, the one that I think you were tickling, is that being subservient, and maybe that's the wrong word, being a servant itself isn't lesser, I guess is what I'm saying. Within the bounds of human connection,
sure,
we're all serving each other, type thing. And that doesn't make anybody lesser than the other.
Sure.
Yeah?
I mean, yeah, I can go with that. I can dig that. I guess where I'm at with the movie is it's Wes Anderson. I really liked it. But it is also definitely not my favorite Wes Anderson, and probably is not even in the top 5.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's a horrible discussion I don't even want to touch, but I didn't think about it myself. So, I mean, design-wise, I think it's, yeah.
No, I think here's the thing. It's not like my list of Wes Anderson movies means that one is worse. It just means in terms of the ones I want to rewatch the most, those are the ones. Like, they're all good. He has not made a movie that I think is bad. The only one that I really don't have a ton of love for in terms of I want to rewatch it a bunch is Darjeeling.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Every other one I'll watch, over and over again. So
yeah, so you'll probably only watch Isle of Dogs, double digits as well.
Yeah,
like Darjeeling. Yeah.
I will certainly get double digits on that.
And I will still give it 5 zillion stars.
Yeah, out of 5 zillion, 0.5.
Keeps going higher and higher. Where do I go from here? Where do we go from here? That is the main question.
I'll tell you where we go from here. We say thank you. That was Isle of Dogs. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit us up, podcast at bookclubformovies.com, or on Twitter. Let us know what you thought about it. Do we sound stupid? Did we make a wrong Wes Anderson? Did we read it all wrong? Let us know. We want to know. Next week, our movie of the week, our book club for movies selection.
Finally gonna do it. I'm so excited.
We're finally gonna do this. We're gonna go a little horror-y here. We're gonna do Get Out.
We are, and then we will.
Also, I believe Get Out streaming on HBO right now.
Oh, okay.
So Get Out.
Get out.
But then get back in.
Okay.
With us.
For the rest of the show.
Let's do it.
Do you have any other movies you want to talk about this week?
I do. I've got Dose.
All right.
2 movies.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you had a dose of painkillers. You were going to...
I have a dose of Eckies.
You got
beer. It. Insidious, hour and 43 minutes, written by Lee Whannell, directed by James Whannell, because he made $1 billion with Aquaman.
Oh, okay. I'm like, is that a real name? That's a pretty good name.
Starring Ocean Master himself, Patrick Wilson, Rose Byrne, Lynn Shay, Ty Simpkins. This is one of those movies that came out with kind of right around when they were doing The Conjuring. James Wan was involved in The Conjuring, and he was involved in Saw. And actually, Lee Whannell is the guy who wrote and directed Upgrade.
Oh, that guy is my favorite.
Yeah, he's pretty great. Again, also wrote Saw and a couple of the other ones too, the other Saw movies. In any case, this is a kind of a weird ghost story with some intradimensional communications and it's fun. It's a fun movie. There's 2 other ones. There might be 3 other ones.
Really?
I've never seen I'd seen this one in the past. I'd never seen Insidious. I haven't seen Insidious 2 or The Last Key. So we'll check those out. Probably not this week. I don't know. Maybe this week. I don't know.
There's like a real Saw situation going on there.
It could be. It could be. I may fall down another rabbit hole like that, which has happened in the past. Saw the exact
rabbit holes.
Rabbit hole.
Check it out.
Totally cool flick though. It gets a little goofy towards the end. It's one of those movies that like okay, you're in it, and then you're like, well, maybe I'm not in it so much because you've now taken a step in maybe into a larger world while simultaneously crushing everything you just built. But I don't know.
It's a leap of sorts, it seems.
There's a bit of a leap. It's like I said, it gets a little interdimensional in a weird way.
And it doesn't necessarily take the viewer with them.
I think this one in particular kind of drops a little bit of that. There's some balls that have been dropped.
Okay.
I do recommend the movie. It's
okay.
Worth a watch if you like horror flicks. It's not.
I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
It's not super horror-y, but it has that. It's it's good. It's all right.
Oh, okay.
Other movie I watched, the Netflix original, I think, Velvet Buzzsaw, hour 53 minutes, written and directed by Dan Gilroy, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo, Zawe Ashton, Toni Collette, John Malkovich.
Whoa, is this
you could be him.
The dude who did Nightcrawler or what?
It is the dude who did Nightcrawler,
okay.
Dan Gilroy, his movie after Nightcrawler, which is a movie that I really love.
Yep, everyone should watch.
Velvet Buzzsaw is a movie I really am okay with.
Man.
It's not great. It has some fun things going for it. And this movie might be one of those movies that works better for people who are not familiar with the art world. Partially because the movie is a really long version of art house stereotypes that get very old very quickly. The whole movie is about an artist dies
I saw you posted this trailer. I did watch this trailer. Okay.
Yeah, artist dies in an apartment building, and a struggling junior art dealer finds all of these amazing paintings, shows them to somebody who's like, "Holy crap, where are these coming from? How do you gotta sell them?" So they have thousands of these paintings. They put them up in a gallery, and some weird things start happening, some supernatural stuff. Things in the paintings start moving. They pop out. They kind of make people get a little kooky.
Dang, man, the movie didn't come off. That trailer looks fantastic.
It just doesn't. It's got some pretty good performances in it, and it's not a terrible movie. It's worth watching if you like Nightcrawler. Probably worth watching. I just don't know.
Sounds like it doesn't get up there with Nightcrawler, though.
I think that the problem that both Beth and I had with it was that not only does it kind of get old with the way it deals with the art world, it never quite crosses into the horror thing that we were hoping for.
Oh,
it kind of sits in this like there's a line where you have supernatural and horror and stuff like that, and there were some like clips in that trailer where you're like, okay, so maybe there's some good stuff in here, and really nothing happens. It's like it is just a bunch of supernaturally scares that don't scare us, but they scare the people in the movie, and they just there's no anything to the characters. Like Gyllenhaal's character in Nightcrawler was interesting because he had something going on that made him want to keep doing the thing he was doing. He had a driving force.
That's a strong freaking character. Yeah.
In this movie, the driving force is greed. And that's really obvious, partially because it's the art world. So that's a huge chunk of it is the greed and going, like, you think about art. how is that not one of the greediest things you can have? You are trying to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars to hold a painting,
and sometimes not even hold it.
That so nobody else can have it, and because it's just going to make you more money eventually. Like it's a greed thing. Like the art world is filled with greed, and that's what this movie it hits on. It just
so some high-minded external ideas as opposed to Nightcrawler that was really dealing with the strength of still some strong ideals, but within Gyllenhaal's character, I think.
Yeah,
fully really okay. Yeah,
and here's the real kicker. This is probably the least Jake Gyllenhaal movie of his career.
It's been a while since you've seen Prince of Persia, hasn't it?
Yes. Okay, but we ignore Prince of Persia. We go to movies where he actually had to do something.
You need not. Okay.
The Sands
Velvet Buzzsaw. I feel like it was named appropriately at the very least.
Did you say Buzzsaw?
Yes, and I always do. It's fun to think about what that is. Everybody's got a different picture in their head.
Yeah, it's fine though.
They've got to start calling the Saw movies that at some point. Like they've run out of words in the English language.
James Wan presents Buzzsaw.
Buzzsaw. That's it? 2 movies?
That's it. 2 movies.
Let's make it 3 because you've seen this one too. Ocean's 8.
I just watched that like 2 nights ago.
You did.
I didn't even think to put it down. I forgot to even mention it. Ocean's 8.
Did you finish it?
Yeah.
I found myself biting my tongue because I felt like you were enjoying it more than I wanted to tell you about. What did you think about it?
It's a good question. What do I think about this movie? Okay, so love the cast, love the characters,
yes.
How they're all brought together, the way they interact. They're totally analogous to the 11 movie, the Ocean's 11 movies.
It's another heist movie. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
I think the big issue that I have for this movie is that it's very clearly not written by people who wrote the other Ocean's movies.
Soderbergh must have been like an untold number of miles away from this thing. Yes.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because there are things there, but you can see the director doing an exact you can't put this any other way other than completely trying to ape Soderbergh. That's all he's trying to do, and he doesn't. It doesn't come across very well.
It does not.
The editing also not great. It also misses the mark on one of my favorite parts of those movies, which is the end bit where you actually find out how it all happened.
The reveal, yeah.
Yeah, it just totally misses the mark. And I think, to me, that seems like almost a really insulting movie because it has all the right things going for it. The concept is totally great, but the way it all falls apart, it's like a dumbed down version of Ocean's 11 for no reason.
And it all revolves around fashion and jewelry. Like, again, yeah, we're some white dudes. This don't pay attention to us, but and there's probably a way to do that.
Well, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that it's just like, yes, the movie is insulting because it definitely takes certain stereotypes and says, okay, well, we're just going to make sure all the women go to a fashion show where they're going to have a jewel that we can steal. Okay, sure. It fits. It makes sense. Ocean's 11, all of those idiots were gamblers. Okay, fine. I can deal with that. Like, that's not the issue. My problem is not the plot or what they did in those cases. My problem is that
execution.
It's an execution thing. Like, the movie, it feels like I'm watching this and I'm like, I get what you're doing. I see it. I can totally envision this, but you've dumbed it down. And that's the only way I can say it, is it just feels like a really dumbed down version of an Ocean's movie with a director who didn't understand how the movies worked in the first place and just figured, if I can make it look like Steven Soderbergh did, I got it.
There are shades. Like, I think Sandra Bullock's character, who is related to Danny Ocean, who is dead, apparently. Like, there's some scene, like the movie begins and ends with her at his gravesite, who she runs into Elliot Gould for a second, which is kind of cool, I guess. But there are shades. Like, she has a harder edge than Daniel Ocean does. Like, comes out of jail, talks about shivving a dude, almost shivs a dude, in fact. So she's got a harder edge to her, which I think is smart for Bullock and I think is smart for, a new, different Oceans movie.
Sure.
But it's only fun in that, it's kind of an exercise in what made the other ones so special.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks like an Oceans movie if you haven't seen an Oceans movie in a long time. Like when I went back to 13 and I was like, whoa, this has like a lot more Soderbergh stuff too. Like 13 is almost more left field than any of the others. I don't think it has the story of the others, but kind of the technique and the film. Like I feel like Soderbergh took a lot more chances with that stuff. This movie looks like that if you forgot all that stuff existed, kind of. And it's a bad memory of an Oceans movie, maybe. Yeah, that sounds appropriate enough.
I think another one of the problems with this movie is that it feels so much like they said, hey, who are some really great, talented actresses we can throw in this movie? Let's get all of them together and it'll work.
Somewhere on paper, this looks cool. I mean, that's why I went and saw it, actually.
Sure.
Like we like the cast. We like the Oceans movie. Like, there was probably no chance we weren't going to see this, but that's where it ended. Somebody didn't put the extra into it to make it something beyond that. They just kind of knew it, and it ended up being one of those.
Yep, I agree.
Whatever. Let me get two more out of the way just to knock them off my list. Saw The Meg.
The movie that Jason Statham buried.
Did he really?
Oh man, as soon as that movie came out, he dumped on it. Yeah, he was very angry with it.
I saw some people being less than happy with it, but I didn't know what more there was going to be to it. Like when the trailer came out, I felt like that was the thing behind it. It was like, oh, this is going to be like a crazy, stupid thing.
Yeah, Statham's issue with it was that the script that he read and what he was told was that it's going to be a really gory, violent movie. And then then it was a PG-13 crap fest. And he's mad about it. He was legit mad about it to the point where he told people, it's like, this is a bad movie.
Well, I don't know. I'll never see that script, so I don't know if making it gory or whatever that was would have made this a better movie. It's definitely not that. I guess myself going into it, I expected it just to be like a silly, stupid thing I could have some fun with. And I think for the most part, it does that.
Did you ever see Deep Blue Sea?
I don't think I did, no.
Yeah.
Is that what I should have seen instead?
Maybe.
I mean, a whole bunch of it doesn't make sense. Like they skip over a whole bunch of science, obviously. The scale issues. Yes. No. Well, they go up and down. Like the bends don't exist in this thing at all. They kind of do, but they don't. In that, whatever. It's like I said, it's not. They gloss over a lot of stuff. There are scaling issues. Like the Meg is bigger at some points, and there are some reasons for that, but still that doesn't solve all of them. Like he's bigger sometimes than he is in others.
Right. It's funny because the comparison that somebody made to me was they were like, you ever notice how in Flash comics and movies and stuff, he can run a certain speed and then he can't suddenly and then he can again just for no reason? That was the Meg.
Started on that. Yeah, you're literally talking about the CW show.
Yeah, it's the same thing in the comics. Like it's one of those things where if you let the Flash be the Flash all the time, nobody in the superhero universe stops.
Yeah. And good stories find a way around that. This is not one of the it doesn't deserve this amount of scrutiny. Like I got what I expected out of it, and I think you will. Like there are fun moments to have in it. There's no Jaws jokes, but there's a good Finding Nemo one in there.
Sure.
The middle slows down quite a bit. Like they should have cut a bunch from there, but the general arc and pacing of it is, it's all you'll get what you think you would get out of it, unless you apparently want a bunch of gore.
I'm telling you, check out Deep Blue Sea. Thomas Jane.
Oh.
Sam Jackson, Saffron Burrows, Stellan Skarsgård.
Oh, I think I might have seen this.
It has a top 10 death in all of film history.
Okay, all right. Well, we're doing Get Out next week, so you have to wait at least. Deep Blue Sea. Okay, we'll check it out. So check mark The Meg. Also, and this could deserve more talk time, but I'll get it out real quick here. There's a documentary out by Peter Jackson called They Shall Not Grow Old.
They shall not.
You see that?
Have not seen it. I'm very familiar with what it is, though.
So what it is that apparently a bunch of footage was released from a spot, Imperial Film Archives or something like that. It's British. It's overseas. And a lot of it had never been seen before. So not only did they release that footage and set it to a bunch of interviews that weren't necessarily even done for this film, that have just happened over time with these soldiers. But 30 minutes into it, the first act is still in black and white. You're hearing the interviews, and then it literally slowly zooms in to widescreen ratio, colorizes itself, and then audio and sound effects are added, which they do more than with documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you don't think about it,
Oh yeah. No, they're
especially on TV. Yeah.
Yeah. People automatically think, oh, a documentary. You set up one camera and you sit down in front of a person and ask questions. That's it.
No, there's Foley in there, and there's Foley in here, but it does add so much. It's freaking nuts. Like it's so stinking good. The beginning is a little slow until that part does hit. So if you find yourself getting a little bored of it, especially if you came to it knowing that was the thing about it, that it's colorized and all this stuff, like, stick with it.
Yeah, because that doesn't bother me.
It's okay. It's amazing. It is really, really good. And about halfway through, I mean, somebody probably does this sooner than I did. You realize that you're listening to the guys that survived all this. Like, there are moments to it that are documentarian, like it's telling you a story and a history, but you realize you're getting it from the guys that experienced, that were there, that survived it. And that, I keep saying survived, because the stories they tell, anytime you hear a new story about World War I, you're like, whatever, that's freaking nuts. Well, whatever, it's freaking nuts. And you're hearing from the guys that survived it, it's freaking nuts.
Yeah, for sure.
Check it out.
That one's on the list. I'm sure we'll watch that one because Beth loves documentaries.
It's so good. It's really good. I'm a history buff, so whatever. Disclaimer. I don't know.
I like history. I just have a hard time getting into the World War I, World War II stuff anymore. Same thing, Civil War. Like, I feel like I've been bombarded with that stuff for so long that
I'm with you.
There's so much more history to engage in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I feel like we've had a mini discussion about this too. How when narrative film comes out that's based on war, like, it's just like, I could care less, until I start hearing some words about it.
Yeah, it's totally like a difficult thing for me to give anything about. Yeah.
That's it. Another 3 off the list. That leaves just a mere, like, probably 10 left. So
hey, look at that. Knocking them down one at a time.
On Book Club for Movies.
We're going to knock another one off your list. Not the watched list, but your movies list, because we are, as a reminder, going to watch Get Out next week. That's Jordan Peele, Daniel Kaluuya vehicle.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah,
obviously.
Podcast at bookclubformovies.com, bookclubformovies.com, bookclubformovies.com.
Twitter, Facebook.com.
All right, next week, Get Out.
Will do.
In fact, I'm going to get out right now.
Oh!
It's like I'm trying to be Dave Coulier. Get it out.
Yep. That's it.
We've got it.